The Burris thing happened before the playoffs, but the ALCS is a playoff thing, so that makes a lot of sense to me. All right, so we're moving into you want to go through all four at this point?
Let's get the whole thing done.
All right. And compared to what I said to you before, I think we might as well just go ahead through the whole thing.
Yeah,
and,
I agree with that.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about winners afterwards or whatnot, and we'll do that in a separate thing. But
okay.
All right, so the next bracket here, I would just like to point out first off, they're not all pizza joints. So Frank is obsessed with pizza, but not fully obsessed with pizza. There is other loves in Frank's life, and when we get to the bracket after this, Frank will have to explain himself. But this is the Royal Crown Restaurant and Bakery, or just bakery?
Yeah, that's right, restaurant and bakery.
Yeah, and located in they're all in Staten Island. So Frank, explain this one to our audience here and what you like about it.
I'm sure most of the audience knows already because this is the place to be in Staten Island, right?
Yeah.
So if you want food, so they got everything: pasta, gyros, paninis, dessert, to-go food. Like if you want like an Italian food to go, they have like a whole takeout section where you go in the window and you pick. I want this, boom, 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 whatever it costs.
Yeah.
Royal Crown is like we cater our food from there. If we have parties and my mom doesn't want to cook, we'll cater our food from there because we trust the food. I mean, they also have the best Italian bread in Staten Island. There's no arguing there. Anyone who says otherwise, I don't believe you. So, and the desserts. Nobody has better desserts in Staten Island either. So that's the two best things. They have the best bread, which like bread is like one of the most important things in my life. I need to have my sandwich on Italian bread. Like I'm not a fan of sliced bread.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do sliced bread, as you could tell from look at me.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have great gyros, great Italian bread, and then they have the best desserts too. So it's like if you're hungry and you don't know where to go, just go to Royal Crown because like you're not going to be upset by whatever you order. It's going to be good.
All right.
I know you're going to ask me the next question. What's my favorite item here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Best item at Royal Crown. Now, I like hot food better than I like desserts, but with that being said, Royal Crown has cheesecake cones.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Like I don't think I've ever had a dessert that tastes as good as a cheesecake cone from Royal Crown.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like almost like I don't even know what the shell is made out of, but it's like a literally like a cone. Picture like a waffle cone, except the exterior is not a waffle. I don't know what it is. And then there's like cream cheese frosting inside that tastes like cheesecake. It's probably the best dessert you could get.
Yeah, and being a non-resident, if this was in my area, there'd be some concerns about me in terms of how much time I'd be going there and to get it. But this hands down is a top 5 dessert I've ever had before. And I've had a lot of them now. There's a reason why my camera angle is more pointed towards the head. And I think that this quarantine and the COVID-19, I hope that there'll be a turnaround and, there'll be more exercise for all of us. But, being inside and everything and working from home, there's a lot to be desired in terms of me doing exercise. But, all right. So, that's the cheesecake cones at Royal Crown. I would highly recommend it. But getting into the bracket now. So, the 1 seed versus 16 seed matchup we have here. The 1 seed is a Stanley Cup final loss to the Kings in 2014, which you brought up before, versus the 16 seed. And I would like to ask you why you even put this on the bracket, because he's still a member of the team. Was the trading for Leonard Williams?
Yeah, Leonard Williams sucks. Leonard Williams, the Giant, Dave Gettleman, not that this is beating the 24 Stanley Cup, as most of you know already, but Dave Gettleman trading for Leonard Williams really made no sense. If they wanted him so badly, they could have just signed him as a free agent at the end of the year. The Giants weren't going anywhere, so I don't know why Dave Gettleman decided to give up a 3rd and 5th round, conditional 5th round pick, which I think might have became a 4 if the Giants re-signed them, which they did. Mm-hmm. So And the third round pick for the Giants. The Giants were the fourth worst team in the league. So that's a very valuable pick. Why did the Giants trade for Leonard Williams? First of all, he sucks. Second of all, if you wanted him so badly, just sign him as a free agent at the end of this past year. They could have signed him right now. He's a free agent. So the whole Leonard Williams thing, it makes no sense. That's me letting off my heat. So that's Dave Gettleman has done a decent job with his drafts. I'll give him that. But the Leonard Williams thing makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's my thoughts on Leonard Williams. 6th overall pick by the Jets in 14, 15, whatever it was.
Wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, and there's a reason why the Jets dumped him, because I don't even know if the guy has 10 career sacks. He was so hyped coming out of college. I forget where did he go to USC?
USC. Yeah, he was a Trojan.
Yeah, Leonard Williams sucks. I'm just going to say that. Anyway, 2014 Stanley Cup. This one seed, rightfully so. This bad boy is a force to be reckoned with in the bracket. The Rangers in the 2013-2014 season, I was convinced that they were going to win the whole thing. And they ran into the Kings, and every single game that they lost was a very close game, with the exception of game 3. Game 3 was the only game that they lost 3-0 in. Games 1 and 2 they lost in overtime, overtime and double overtime. Game 1, of course, Dan Girardi has to turn the puck over in Los Angeles, and Justin Williams just takes the puck because he turned it over. Girardi turned it over in the Rangers zone, so it was the worst possible place for him to commit the turnover. And Williams took the puck and just buried it in the back of the net. So they're up 1-0 in the series. And then I think this game 2 went into double overtime, if I'm not mistaken. And the Rangers were up in that game too. I think they might have been up 2-0 and 4-2. So they had 2 2-goal leads, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And then who was it? Mitchell, I think, scored the game in overtime, in double overtime.
Yeah.
The defenseman who.
Oh, it was Martinez?
No, that was in game 5.
Yeah.
I think it was Mitchell. I'll have to look it up.
A Kings defenseman?
Kings defenseman, yeah.
Right shot or left shot?
I don't know off the top of my head. We can look into it.
I don't remember a Mitchell, but go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'll double check that, but I think that puck was deflected anyway, so I don't think he got credit for the goal. Yeah. And that game went into double overtime, so again, another close game. Game 3. Oh, and that was also game 2 was also the Dwight King goalie interference non-call where he pushed into Lundqvist. It was clearly goalie interference, and the refs didn't blow the whistle for whatever reason, so they got screwed over in that one. Yeah, and then game 3, the Rangers lost 3-0. That game wasn't very close, but then they won game 4. The Rangers did, and then in game 5, another game in overtime that they lost. So even though the series ended in 5 games, it really wasn't a 5. It felt like a 7-game series because every game was so close.
Yeah.
With the exception of game 3. So that's the frustrating thing. So the 24, and everyone knows how hard it is to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. It's not like something that happens with regularity. It's very difficult. It's not easy to go on a playoff run in the NHL. It's very difficult. The 8 seed can easily upset the 1 seed, vice versa. I believe that's what happened with the Kings in 2012. They were the 8 seed and they made it to the final.
Yeah.
So that Stanley Cup will probably haunt me for a long time until the Rangers win another one, which they haven't done since '94.
Yeah. All right. So obviously we're going with the Stanley Cup final loss there, or you are. Okay. So the 8 versus 9 matchup here, we have Odell Beckham's tenure as a Giant versus the Joakim Noah signing by the Knicks.
This is wow. So the thing with Odell is everybody knows he's talented, right?
Yeah.
But it's just he's a head case. He's a me first player. He wasn't the first wide receiver drafted that year. It was Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that.
So Odell was hyped up coming out of LSU, and rightfully so. Probably the most talented wide receiver in the league. but that doesn't mean he's the best wide receiver in the league because he clearly isn't.
Mm-hmm.
High expectations. He always had something to say. Me first type of player. He's the type of guy who, I think he even said once that if I commit unsportsmanlike penalties, conduct penalties, the team's going to have to put up with it, too bad type of thing. He's that type of attitude. So he had that whole incident in Philadelphia where he lifted his leg in the end zone and got unsportsmanlike conduct and acted like he was a dog peeing or whatever type of thing. Just you would think the kid's like 12 years old. So
yeah.
Odell, I mean, I don't understand why the Giants signed him to an extension then ended up trading him a year later. That didn't make any sense.
Mm.
I know Gettleman said we didn't sign him to trade him, but he ended up doing just that.
Yeah.
But he's not on the team anymore. The Joakim Noah signing. The thing with the Joakim Noah signing, I was pissed very much pissed in the moment because everyone knew he was washed at the time. Yeah, for some reason, Phil Jackson decided to give him a 4-year deal worth like $72 million.
Mm-hmm.
So these both are very bad.
Yep.
They're very, very bad. And Noah did nothing for the Knicks. I think they eventually they released him or brought him out of his contract. Mm-hmm. So there's still a small portion of salary that counts towards the cap each year because of the Joakim Noah signing.
Yeah.
So, wow. I'm going to have to, but at least Odell had some productive seasons, right?
Yeah.
Noah, there was nothing. So I would have to say that Noah is the more painful thing.
Okay.
But that's a very close matchup.
Yeah, and that's why it's an 8-9 matchup. All right, moving down the bracket here, we have the 5-seeded Eric Flowers drafting by the Giants versus yet another dubious Yankee. We have A.J. Burnett's tenure as a Yankee, another pitcher in this list. Go ahead.
All right, so Eric Flowers, a wonderful draftee by Jerry Reese, of course. First round, top 10. I don't remember exactly what number it was. Out of Miami. Was supposed to solidify the offensive line, and he did the complete opposite of that. He was a complete liability, probably one of the worst first-round draft choices by the Giants ever. Ended up being released after maybe 3 or 4 years. They tried to shuffle him all around the offensive line. At one point, he was at left tackle, then he moved to right tackle. They don't want him to protect Eli's blind side. Let's move him here. Let's move him there. It was a disaster. They rightfully released him. He ended up signing a contract with the Redskins last year and supposedly played decently for them and turned that into a contract with the Dolphins. He's getting paid $10 million a year somehow. I don't even know how that's possible, but supposedly he's found his niche role that he's been successful in. Otherwise, why would someone give him $10 million? So, yeah. But he was a disaster for the Giants. And then Burnett as a Yankee. So the thing with Burnett is they signed to a 5-year deal. I think between $80 and $85 million around there. He came in with Sabathia Teixeira, so 08 going into 09. His first year with the Yankees was 09. I think he was pretty good in year 1 in 09. His ERA was around 4, but he was he slipped right behind CC in the rotation. And the thing about Burnett is he actually helped them win the World Series in 09 because he pitched very well in Game 2 against the Phillies because in 09 the Yankees lost Game 1 to Cliff Lee. And if Burnett doesn't pitch well in Game 2, there's a very good chance they can lose that series. So he turned things around quickly. Mm-hmm. But then in 10 and 11, he was a disaster. I think his ERA was north of 5 in both 10 and 11. The Yankees switched pitching coaches because of him. They fired Dave Island and brought in Rothschild. And I think mostly the reason for that was because they wanted to get Burnett on track. And it ended up, it turned out no one really could get him on track. Yeah. So the Yankees ended up trading him. They didn't get much in return, but they traded him to the Pirates, and he actually pitched well with the Pirates, which really didn't surprise me because there's a lot of players that go from big markets to small market teams and end up pitching well. And Burnett's as talented as they come, right? I mean, he's a talented pitcher. He was throwing in, you said it, nasty curveball, throwing mid to high 90s, even into his late 30s. So I wasn't surprised that he succeeded with the Pirates. But it was a bad. I mean, even though he helped them win the World Series, it was a bad contract. But the Flowers thing is definitely worse.
And that's kind of the way I thought you were going to go there. You mentioned the big to small market sort of scenario for a Yankees pitcher, and we'll see one of those further down in this bracket. You see what I'm looking at there. But all right, so we're looking at a 4-13 matchup right now. The 4 is the Yankees 2018 ALDS loss to the Red Sox on the Red Sox way to their 2018 championship. Versus the 13th seeded. There's a lot of Knicks stuff in this bracket. This is the drafting of French point guard Frank Ntilikina.
Right. All right, so this one's not hard. I'll start with Ntilikina. Ntilikina is not a terrible player. So some people have said that, why is he even in the bracket? He's a useful player, but again, he's a top 10 pick. You want someone who could perform on both sides of the ball. Ntilikina is a defensive specialist. Ideally, bring him off the bench when you need defense late in a game or something like that. He's a very good defensive player. So it's not like he's completely useless. I mean, he's a useful player. I mean, if he eventually leaves the Knicks, I'm sure he'll find a nice bench role on a contending team because, like I said, he's a very good defensive player. The 18 DS, I mean, the Red Sox winning the World Series in 18 did not bother me, even despite the fact that they beat the Yankees in the playoffs. Did not bother me as much as the 13 World Series because the Red Sox in 18 were unstoppable. I mean, the lineup top to bottom was, J.D. Martinez sitting in the middle of the lineup, Bogarts, Betts. That was Betts' MVP year, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, the thing that probably bothers me most about the 18 DS was in Game 4, the Yankees had a chance to come back because Kimbrel was all over the place, but Stanton helped them out with that strikeout, swinging at pitches nowhere near the strike zone.
I remember that.
So I think that had Stanton not struck out in that spot, I think there's a good chance the Yankees would have won Game 4, and then anything could happen in Game 5. But that Stanton at bat killed them. But yeah, the 18 D, you don't ever want to lose to the Red Sox. But what was it, game 3 where they got blown out? That wasn't even close. The only game they won was Game 2. Sanchez hit a couple home runs. But aside from that, it didn't look too good for the Yankees when you had Jay Happ scoring in Game 1. because the Yankees had to play in the wild card game, so they couldn't start Tanaka, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't start Tanaka because they had the wild card game because the Red Sox won the division. So when you're a wild card team, you get put in that scenario where you're not going to have your best guy throwing in Game 1. So, but clearly, the 18 DS loss will advance past.
All right. Okay, so the 6-11 matchup, the 6th seed here, the Cliff Lee one, they're parallel here, where the Cliff Lee I ranked lower. Looking back, I probably should have gone a little higher with it, but the reason why I went the 6 so high on this one was because this definitely has a big impact for the Yankees moving forward.
Yep,
The fact that they were not able to corral Shohei Ohtani to sign with them, basically the next Babe Ruth type in baseball. But then we have an 11 seed matchup here of it against the drafting of Lias Anderson by the Rangers. This was another one of my Wikipedia searches to kind of get more of the story. And it's a disgruntled relationship at its current standing.
Yeah.
More details to come, but I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. So Ohtani, he's another one of the free agent signings that I was convinced he was coming to the Yankees type of thing. So this is 17 going into 18. So Ohtani coming out of Japan. What team did he play for? Was it the Rakuten Golden Eagles maybe?
Well, that's the team we always reference when we talk about the Nippon Professional Baseball League.
Right, yeah. So. But I mean, it's not important. But I was convinced he was coming to the Yankees. So the thing with Ohtani is he's a right-handed pitcher who can also hit.
Yeah.
So on days that he's not pitching, you could slide him right into the DH role in the American League.
Yeah.
So that kind of eliminated 15 teams right off the bat. I figured the Yankees would be a good fit. It turns out that he wanted to play for a smaller market team, so I was very bothered when he did not come to the Yankees. Very much bothered. I also think that the Yankees losing out on Ohtani made Cashman pivot and want to make a splash. So that led him to trade for Stanton. So this was like a kind of a double impact. So they lose out on Ohtani, who's not making any money, right? Ohtani's still considered under team control.
An amateur.
Right, an amateur. Yeah, right. Like under team control, not paying him a lot of money. So you go from signing him who could fulfill two roles to trading for Stanton, and you're trading for Stanton and absorbing almost $30 million a year in contract, which kind of you're strapping your hands together with that. So the Ohtani thing, I mean, the Yankees losing out on Ohtani bothered me. And it's still, even though he's had Tommy John and hasn't played much, it still does bother me because he's still very young. So he could turn out to be.
He's under 30 still.
Yeah, he's still under 30. He's probably like 25, 26. So he could still turn out to be a very good player. And the limited plate appearances and starts that he's had, he's been effective. It's just injuries that have kept him off the field.
Yeah.
Elias Anderson, he's a first-round pick of the Rangers. He was actually drafted, I think, top 10. I forget exactly where, maybe like 7, 8, around there, maybe.
Yeah.
I believe the Rangers signed him using a draft pick that they acquired from the Coyotes when they traded the Stepan over to the Coyotes.
That would line up, yeah.
Yeah, it's right around the 2016, 2017 season, around there. And the funny thing about Anderson is he was drafted before Philip Hedl, and Hedl turned out to be a pretty useful. They were drafted in the same draft, both first-round picks. So the Rangers used their own pick on Hedl, but traded Stepan and used that pick to get Anderson. So it turns out Hedl's been the more useful player. Anderson's become so frustrated with the team that he's actually asked out of New York and asked for a trade because he's like buried in the AHL. But he's not producing. If he was producing, he'd be playing. It's that simple. The Rangers don't have something against him. If he was an effective player, he'd be up here with the team, right? So it's his fault. I mean, he's obviously got a bad attitude. But with that being said, the Ohtani thing is worse. So that's going to move on.
Yeah. And this Elias Anderson thing, it's similar to kind of what happened with Drouin down in the Lightning.
Yeah.
When he was there and he got traded off to Montreal. Very similar situation. So, yeah, but I had to do some research on that one. I really hadn't known much about that. Very similar to Eddie Curry, but yeah. So the 3 versus 14 matchup, and this is a Yankees clash. Pretty maybe convincing as to who eventually will win this, but the 3 seed is the firing of Joe Girardi by Brian Cashman versus the 14th seeded trade for Sonny Gray. So go ahead on that one.
All right. So Cashman. So firing might not be the right word to use, but I used it.
Parting of ways. I guess.
Parting of ways probably is more appropriate. So Girardi technically wasn't fired because his contract was up after the 2017 season when the Yankees lost to the Astros. And there are some Yankee fans who aren't a fan of Girardi, and I really don't know why, because I think he's a terrific manager. I was pissed off in the moment that they ended up deciding to part ways. I'm very pissed off because I'm a Joe Girardi fan. I think he should still be the manager of the Yankees. I think, the manager really doesn't make too much of a difference in baseball, but at the same time, you want a steady hand in there being the manager. Mm-hmm. So it bothered me. Boone, I thought, did a terrible job in 2018. Was better in 19. I'll give him that. But I still don't think he's going to turn out to be a better manager than Girardi. Mm-hmm. But I have grown on Boone a little bit the past couple of years, so I'll still give him a chance. But Girardi, I think, if you have a good manager, there's no point in getting rid of one because it's not easy to find a good one. So that's what bothered me about that. And then the Sonny Gray trade. See, the Sonny Gray, this is probably seated appropriately because the Yankees really didn't give up much for Sonny Gray. They gave up, I think it was like Jorge Mateo, who's still haven't made the major leagues. The A's. James Caprillion, who had Tommy John, who was a highly touted prospect out of UCLA, right-handed pitcher, has not made the major leagues with the A's. So, but Sonny Gray was not good. Not very good for the Yankees in 17. It was probably subpar in 17, but then in 18 was very bad, like pretty bad.
Yeah.
Eventually was, I think, kicked out of the rotation in 18. And the Yankees ended up trading him to Cincinnati for very little. And he's turned out to have a sub-3 ERA with the Reds, which, again, no surprise, player moving from a big market team to a small market team having success. It doesn't surprise me, but, Sonny Gray was not a good Yankee. But with that being said, the Cashman firing of Girardi is going to move past it.
Got it. Okay. The 7 versus 10 matchup in this, 3 out of the last 4 events that are in this are Knicks events, which is surprising, but the 7 seed is the 2013. It looks like the only Knicks appearance in the last century in the playoffs.
That's right.
The 7 seed in 2013 second round loss, and believe it or not, they made it to the second round versus the Pacers. And then number 10, the 10 seed here, we have the Isaiah Thomas era, I guess, as coach GM combination, different, whatever. Go ahead. So,
2013 Knicks. This is probably their best team, which it really isn't saying a lot because they weren't that good. But they had Tyson Chandler, Melo, an aging Amari Stoudemire. Stoudemire's only good year was his first year with the Knicks. After that, injuries kind of ruined his career. But yeah, people think that the Knicks should have beaten the Pacers. So I was like I think the Knicks might have been like the 2 seed that year, right behind Miami. One of the very few times you'll see that. Don't get used to it. But people were saying that, we would have liked to have our chances against the eventual world champion Heat, see what we can do. The Knicks weren't advancing past the Heat in 2013. There's no chance. So they weren't advancing past Bosh, LeBron, and Wade right in that time. So it's not that big a deal if they lost it. So this might be a little bit overseeded. The Isaiah Thomas era, that was him serving as GM and head coach. And for some reason, he still has like a minor role with the Knicks organization. Like supposedly, at one point he was like general manager of the New York Liberty. Like him and Dolan, for some reason, have such a close relationship that they can't seem to like break up with one another. I don't know why he's so obsessed with Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas never played for the Knicks, so I don't understand why Dolan has such a close relationship with him. But Isaiah Thomas was not a good general manager and not a good head coach. We alluded to that Eddie Curry thing earlier on, so that's going to advance past it.
Remind me again, are you going with Isaiah Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then the 2 versus 15 matchup here, we have a Rangers, the 2015 Eastern Conference final loss to the Lightning as a 2 seed, and then the 15 seed here is the 2019 NBA Draft Lottery. I feel like you mentioned earlier that something was very underseeded, and I feel like the 2019 is.
No, I didn't say underseeded. I said there's something that's very poorly seeded.
Oh, poorly seeded. Yeah, for some reason, I feel like this is the one you're going to pick on. No? Okay. We'll wait for the
next. It might be a little underseeded, maybe a little bit. But I'll start with the 2015 Eastern Conference Final. 2015, the 2014-2015 season, this is the year right after the Rangers lost to the Kings in the Stanley Cup. So I was convinced that this was their year. And they played a close, hard-fought series with the Lightning. They were actually down 3-2 in the series at one point, but then obliterated the Lightning in Game 6. I think Brassard had like 4 goals in Game 6 or something crazy like that against the Lightning in Tampa, nonetheless. So they were coming home with all the momentum, and they went into Madison Square Garden that night and completely laid an egg. Got shut out by the Lightning. I don't even know why they bothered playing in the game because they didn't show up. It was the most pathetic performance I've ever seen. This is 100% properly seeded as a 2 seed. This sports moment still haunts me to this day. I do not know what happened in 2015, why they did not show up for Game 7, but apparently they forgot they were playing in the Eastern Conference Final NHL playoffs because they didn't show up. 2019 NBA Lottery. I mean, look, the Knicks finished with the worst record. Everyone expected them to get the first overall pick. Of course, the first year that the Knicks have their own pick and they have finished with the worst record in the league is the first year that they worsen the chances. The NBA worsens the chances for the worst record in the league to get the first overall pick. Of course, the first year the Knicks have it. I mean, it was like. So I think the thing that angers me more is like not that they didn't get number one because Zion looks like he's going to be a good player, right? Everyone thinks that. It's that Morant is a terrific player too. So like Ja Morant went second in this draft.
It does. Oh no, yeah. No, sorry. Go ahead. I was mixing up the years. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Williamson and Morant back to back, two guys who are probably going to be all-stars for the next decade, maybe longer than that. Morant's a terrific point guard. The Knicks desperately needed one. So I was hoping they at least got a top 2 pick. Of course, they got a top 3 pick, and they have to settle for Barrett. It looks like he's going to be a nice little player. I mean, he might be a starter. I don't think he's going to be anything special. So that's what bothers me about the 2019 NBA lottery. It's not so much that they didn't get the first pick. It's more that they didn't get the first or second pick. If they would have gotten the second pick, I would have been okay with it because Morant, they desperately need Ja Morant's a terrific point guard. They desperately need one. And they aren't getting one anytime soon, probably. So, but with that being said, 15 Eastern Conference Final. That's going to advance.
All right. So now we're moving into the next round of the bracket here. So we have the 1-seeded Stanley Cup Final loss to the Kings in 2014 by the Rangers against the Joakim Noah signing.
Yeah, this one's easy. 2014 and Stanley Cup definitely worse. Like I said, all those games with the exception of Game 3. Very difficult to swallow, all overtime or double overtime losses. Who knows when the Rangers are getting back to the Stanley Cup Final. So that's going to advance past Noah.
And that's what I figured too. All right, so we have a 5 versus 4 matchup here. We have the drafting of Eric Flowers by the Giants as our 5 against the number 4 2018 ALDS loss to the Red Sox.
All right, this one, again, not too difficult. Definitely the 18 ALDS loss to the Red Sox. You never want to see the Yankees lose to the Red Sox in any capacity, let alone the first round of the playoffs. Of course, the Red Sox ended up winning the World Series. So as bad as Eric Flowers was, and he probably has impacted the team a lot more than you think, I'm going to go with the 18 DS.
All right. So moving to the next one, it's a 6 versus 3 matchup. The Shohei Ohtani signing with the Angels event versus Cashman firing Joe Girardi or not re-signing Joe Girardi. What do you got?
All right. Boy. I still think, wow. You know what? There's no guarantee that Ohtani's going to, Ohtani's very talented. Wow. You know what? This is tough.
We could use a commercial break right now.
No, yeah. You know what? I'm thinking about it, and I think Boone has made progress from year 1 to year 2 as manager, and I think he'll continue. I'm hoping he'll continue to make progress whenever the MLB season decides to return. And like I said, MLB managers, they really can only impact the game so much, right? I mean, it's not like an NFL head coach. So with that, keeping that in mind, I'm going to go with the Ohtani thing. Again, because the Ohtani thing, Cashman going for Ohtani prompted him to trade for Stanton. And Stanton, not only has he not really performed, he performed okay in 18, except in the playoffs. But then in 19, he barely played, and then he didn't play in the 19 playoffs either. He had that one game that he decided to play in, and then he sat out the rest of the series. So it's like, and not only that, they're that's $30 million in salary that the Yankees have had to absorb because they failed to sign Ohtani. So Ohtani.
Okay. Next up, or last up in the this round of the bracket is the 10-seeded Isaiah Thomas era for the Knicks versus the 2nd-seeded 2015 Eastern Conference Final loss by the Rangers to the Lightning.
Yeah. The Eastern Conference Final loss definitely advances past the Isaiah Thomas era. Like I said, the way that they performed in Game 7, I think that bothers me the most. So.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Final 4 here. The 1-seeded 2014 Stanley Cup Final loss to the Kings by the Rangers versus the Yankees 2018 ALDS loss to the Red Sox?
This one's not difficult. It's the 2014 Stanley Cup.
Okay.
The loss to the Kings. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, next up we have the 6th-seeded Shohei Ohtani signing to the Angels versus the 2nd-seeded Rangers Eastern Conference Final loss in 2015 to the Lightning.
All right. Again, we're gonna have the Ranger loss to another Ranger loss advance over Ohtani.
And then we have a 1 versus 2 matchup here. Stanley Cup Final loss to the Kings against an Eastern Conference Final loss to the Lightning. Back-to-back years.
Oh, wow. So I'm going to try to rationalize with this one. So in 14, I didn't expect the Rangers to – I expect them to make the playoffs, right? But I didn't expect them to make a run to the Stanley Cup Finals. With that being said, they performed so well and came short. It stings. Like I said, the 3 overtime losses, one of them being double overtime. It stings a lot. The 2015 Eastern Conference Final, I was convinced they were going to the Stanley Cup Final. So my confidence level going into Game 7, like I said, was so high because they performed so well in Game 6 in Tampa on the road. I figured they're coming home now. What could be so difficult? And then they decide not to score a goal. It's like, what happened? But, I think once you get to the Stanley Cup and you lose, you don't know when you're getting back. And for that reason, I'm going to have to go with the 2015 Stanley Cup.
Very interesting. And as a Bruins fan, I've gone through 2 cup final losses, so I know the pain of that. This past year and then to the Blackhawks before. And this year was a lot tougher. It was very similar to your Eastern Conference Final scenario where Game 7 was in Boston and they just blew it bad, really bad. They lost 4-1, and you thought that they had the advantage being at home, and didn't end up working out. But the 2014 Stanley Cup Final loss to the Kings rounds out this bracket as the winner there. It is the 2nd 1 seed to advance here. So the favorites are moving forward here. Okay, so